Hey buddy, watch this.
Hello, hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Hearthstone is the game, and it's time to take a look at the 10 best legendary cards to craft in the standard format Whispers of the Old Gods meta. Starting off with the number 10 spot, it is the Warrior Legendary Grommash Hellscream. This is the ultimate finisher card that's played in a variety of different warrior classes, and because it's a part of the classic set, you know it's not going away anytime soon. Grom will always be that finishing piece on any late game warrior deck. Moving on to the number 9 spot, it's the Paladin card Tirion Fordring. Now this is arguably the best legendary in the game when it comes to raw stats, power, and influence over the board. But of course, Tirion Fordring is a class-specific card, which means he's not necessarily one of the best cards to craft if you're on a limited budget. You'll only be able to play him in Paladin, so every card moving forward might not be quite as good as Tirion Fordring, but at least they're neutral cards that you can use across a variety of classes, and therefore they're better to craft because they'll fit in more decks, but you can't go wrong with Tirion Fordring if you're playing Paladin. Next up on the list at number 8 is Chillmaw. This is a card which has gained a lot of popularity recently thanks to the card by the name of Zoth, who we might get to see a little later, who has really built Death Rattle decks into an actual viable thing. But Chillmaw is great not only because it has Death Rattle, but it also has Dragon synergies, which makes it a natural fit for Dragon style decks, and it has Taunt, which is perfect for N'Zoth, but also just an important part of control style decks that like to play cards like this anyway, making Chillmaw a pretty important piece of the metagame these days. Next up is Cairn Bloodhoof at the number 7 spot. This is one of the ultimate value minions in Hearthstone. It's a bundle of stats, it's hard to deal with, it has Death Rattle synergies, and because it's a part of the classic set, you know you'll always be able to play Cairn in standard format, which makes him an old reliable card that you can't go wrong slotting into any mid-range or control style deck. Up next at the number 6 spot is Harrison Jones. There is no better tech card in Hearthstone. He's tons of value, and he's the ultimate answer anytime weapon classes start getting you down, which tends to be pretty often, so you can always find a spot for Harrison Jones in virtually any kind of deck. Coming in at the number 5 spot is Leroy Jenkins, and no, I'm not going to yell his name, but Leroy is really the game's most reliable and consistent finisher card. He's something you can slot into virtually any deck, and it will give you that burst damage that you need to win games, particularly as a part of multiple card combos that are very good at killing opponents very fiercely in a single turn. The old gods have started to arrive with the number 4 spot and Zoth the Corruptor. When it comes to late game threats, there's really nothing better than Zoth. Even though he's only a 5/7 on his own, of course, it's that battle cry that makes him so devastatingly good. Any Death Rattle minions that have died up to the point you play N'Zoth are suddenly brought back to life, giving you ridiculously huge boards that are very difficult for opponents to deal with, particularly because even if they kill everything, you've got a slew of Death Rattle effects proccing once more that makes you even better off than you were before you played N'Zoth. And now it's time for the top 3, starting with Ragnaros the Firelord. Now, I don't think this big bad flamin' dude is better than N'Zoth, but he is a part of the classic set, which means that he'll always be in your collection and able to be played in standard format. So he's more valuable than N'Zoth as far as crafting and efficiency are concerned. Plus, he's just such a perfect late game minion that fits into so many different decks that you know you're going to reliably be able to play Ragnaros the Firelord for the foreseeable future. Now it's time for the top 2, starting with number 2, Yogg-Saron, Hope's End, the craziest card in Hearthstone, far and away. If you're going to craft any card in Hearthstone because you want to have fun, this card is definitely the one you go for. Skip number 1. This is where all the fun is at. It's the most random, chaotic, crazy card ever printed. Not only that, it's actually quite good too, and Yogg-Saron serves as a sort of bailout finisher type card for a variety of different decks, making him tons of fun, but also competitively viable, which is the perfect matchup. The only reason Yogg-Saron is not the number 1 card on this list is because he is an old gods card, which means eventually he'll be rotated out of the standard format meta, which means you might lose a little bit of dust in the long run. But this is a card you'll never have to dust. At the number 1 spot, the very best card to craft in Hearthstone, it is Sylvanas Windrunner. Now, she might not look like much, but she's got it where it counts. Sylvanas is the perfect minion you can slot into virtually any deck that's not a super hyper aggro face deck. She's hard to deal with, she has reasonable stats, a fantastic effect. She's just good. It's hard to describe exactly what makes Sylvanas so powerful, but basically once you get her, you'll realize how big of an impact she has and just how many decks you can add her to, and she just fits. And that to me is why Sylvanas Windrunner is actually the first place you should spend your arcane dust in Hearthstone if you're looking to build a competitive collection that will always last through standard format. Now, I'm sure you're going to tell me I'm crazy and that none of those cards belonged on the list and I missed 18 other cards. Well, guess what? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave them in the comments. I want to know what your top 10 legendaries to craft in Hearthstone are, so let me know. Thanks for watching, and until next time, game on.